How's it going, everyone? Dave Brown here with the New Populist. Thank you again for joining me. So, I'm sure you're aware by now that we have a situation going on in Russia with the Wagner Group. Apparently, a portion of them have staged some sort of mutiny being led by Prigozhin. They're in the Russian city of Rostov. And right now, there's this sort of standstill. A lot of things happening right now. No one exactly sure what's going on. And we have Putin respond saying the people who are leading this mutiny, this act, will be punished. So crazy things happening. Where this ends up, I don't know. And I'm done making predictions because when it comes to Prigozhin, I thought he was just about 50% troll, 50% airing grievances. And I thought there was a wink and nod with Putin and the high command where he's saying things to plant information with the Ukrainians, with the West, to fool them. Sort of a psyop, an intel operation to plant information. But it turns out it's more on the lines of he is just a nut job. And I missed that. And people were saying, he's not just trolling. He's a little out there. And what he's saying is there's some truth to it. And turns out those people were right. I was wrong. Now, what Prigozhin reminds me of, and I think we all can relate to this. Think back to your childhood. A friend of yours that you liked the guy. Most of the time, he was a cool guy. But there was something about him. He was a little unpredictable, a little out there. And you never knew when he might freak out or do something weird or just have a meltdown. And as you get older, you go, you know what? I like Bob or Rick, but I can't hang out with that guy because I just can't trust that he will behave properly. And there might be a situation where he loses it. Maybe we're at the bar, he starts a fight, and next thing you know, you're in a melee with 20 guys because your friend Bob couldn't behave himself and he had some issue and freaked out. That's what Prigozhin reminds me of. That kind of personality where it's just a matter of time before he does something ridiculous and hurt you in some sort of way. And the reason I thought that Putin or Prigozhin was trolling a little bit was because I assumed, apparently wrongly, that Putin would not allow somebody like that, an unpredictable personality, to fester in his country, in its military, for that long and lead to a situation like this. So I assumed that he was trolling at some level and that he wasn't as crazy or as loose a cannon as some of his videos would suggest. But apparently that is the case. Now, what does this mean for the West and NATO and Ukraine? Well, this entire war operates for the West off propaganda. That's what keeps people invested in this war and thinking that Ukraine is going to win this war, propaganda. And from that aspect, we just gave, or not we, but Prigozhin gave the West a gift here of massive amounts of propaganda that they can create, stir up more support for money and weapons. And it gives them this credibility that the idea that Putin could be thrown out of power, it gives that thought credibility. Is Putin in threat of being thrown out of power? No, he's not. 25,000, or actually I think it's less than that, Wagner's in Rostov is not going to topple Vladimir Putin. People are making comparisons to 1917, the October Revolution, the Bolsheviks. That was a situation where you had millions of dead soldiers fighting in World War I. You had a complete breakdown of the entire country. You had a previous revolution 6 months earlier when the Tsar was thrown out and there was this provisional government. It was absolute mad chaos. This is nothing close to that. This is just apparently one guy with a big ego and a few screws loose, creating a huge problem for the Russian high command and Vladimir Putin. A problem that they should be able to solve relatively quickly. or at least you would think. If this doesn't get resolved in the next few days, that is a problem. And, this is like a wound. The longer it festers, the worse it's going to be. And either way, this gives the West, again, just massive propaganda. But ignoring the propaganda, this does not change the fundamentals on the battlefield as far as manpower, munitions, all that kind of thing. The offensive Ukraine launch is still going bad. So that doesn't change that. So if Putin can get this situation under control, yes, they're going to lose out when it comes to propaganda. But as far as accomplishing what they want to accomplish on the battlefield, that is still pretty solid. Again, because this does not affect the actual structure, the fundamentals there. So just crazy times right now. This is, crazy. And it does make you think a little bit about the structure of the Russian system and how this happened and how it was able to happen. And from that aspect, I do have to wonder about Putin just a little bit. For him to make this mistake, to allow this guy to get things this far and make things this chaotic, because this is not helping, and this is not a operation internally to fool the West. I don't think so. No, this is real, and this should not have happened, but it did, and this is going to make things very interesting for the next several months. And it feels a little dangerous because if the West is emboldened to think that Russia and Putin doesn't have, they don't have control of their country, that gives those crazy voices in the Pentagon a platform to even, to advocate even louder that we perhaps should intervene in some way in Ukraine, maybe move troops into Western Ukraine, do something to up the ante to keep the pressure on, because they're going to look at this as a situation where, okay, there's a little pressure there with Prigozhin and Wagner. We need to keep the pressure on. So what can we throw in the fire to keep it roaring? And that's my concern, what that response is from the West. And the longer this situation lasts, the more those voices will rise to the top and get more and more attention as far as doing something to try to tip it over and finally get Putin out of power. And that's when things can get very dangerous. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Well, thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.